I only have eyes for you, dear.
Would you would? Okay, that's good.
Now, were you two singing that to each other?
Yes, I
yeah,
think so.
absolutely.
Very dirty inside just now.
That's awesome. No, every reunion, Jerry and I get up there and we do something.
Yeah.
I
Why
mean,
did one of you take the harmony part?
We didn't practice.
Yeah,
you
we
never
didn't-
know.
If you're gonna sing, one of you needs to take the harmony
But
part.
the thing is, if he would go in the harmony and I tried it at the same time, it would sound like,
Yeah.
the Chipmunks or something.
yeah,
I don't
yeah. That, you made my day, thank you. Okay, let's do it. All righty, here we are, Tim, in Philadelphia, and it's with great honor and pleasure that I'm here with my friend and comrade, Jerry Tempesta, and we served together in Vietnam in 68 and 69. And Jerry, thank you for taking your time out to come and be with us today, and as I've told you before, every man that we served with in Vietnam, his story is an integral part of an overall big story, and what we're trying to do is put the puzzle pieces back together again.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start by asking you, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, South Philly, exactly.
Okay.
And there's a difference. South Philly is different than the rest of Philly.
Is it a different type of people, different culture? What are we talking
Yeah,
about?
it's a lot of Italian people, Irish, and some black people, but just the culture. I think though, even our voice, the way we talk, is people can't imitate our voice because it's not like anywhere else.
Do people ever think that your voice is like New Yorkers?
Well, like
Or is it different?
no, it's definitely different. New York and Boston have a heavier kind of an accent.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
more like a neutral kind of a voice.
Okay. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Bishop Newman Catholic High School.
Okay. And did you do any athletics, or what were you doing in high school? What was your
Well,
favorite stuff?
well, believe it or not, I was a very good athlete, but I never played for the school. I played sandlot baseball, sandlot football. I got into lifting weights and getting in great shape, and then I would sing on the street corners of South Philly.
Just like you see in the movies,
Yes, just
where
like
three or four guys are just.
it's like the Rocky movie, sitting around the trash can.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we did. And I'm still singing. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So.
And tell me a little bit about your family.
As far as my wife and kids
No,
and everything.
your mom. We're still in high school.
I'm still in high school.
Still in high school.
Well, my mom, her parents were born in Italy, and but she was born here. Her mother passed away when she was only 3 years old.
Oh, gosh.
So I guess she had it hard, being raised. And my grandfather went back to Italy, and he came back and had another bride. He brought back another bride. So I never met my real grandmother, but it was nice growing up in South Philly. My grandmother and grandfather had a grocery store, and they sold lunch meats that were very
Oh
popular
my
in South
gosh!
Philly.
Yes, yes.
All kinds of lunch meats. It's the only store I ever saw with the electric slicing machine. I never saw them before. But
Everything was hand carved.
everything was hand carved, and at that time, that's when they used to have stuff loose. They had potato chips loose and pretzels loose.
Oh, sure.
They had beans loose with the different little.
Yes, like a bulk.
Yes, it was unbelievable, and they were good times. I mean, growing up back then, the values you had in families and the neighborhoods, everybody would look out for each other.
Yep.
And going to Catholic school though, you couldn't get away with anything between the nuns and the priest. So I would think that going to Catholic grade school and high school prepared me for the Army. It was like being in the Army, the way that everything was regimented. So
Discipline.
very good discipline.
And you learned in Catholic school, if you were told to do something, you did it.
Yes, yeah.
Usually didn't ask why.
Didn't ask why, just did it. Just did it.
Exactly. So when you graduated from high school, were you planning to go to college, or were you just going to go to work? What was your plans right after high school?
Well, I wanted to be some kind of a tradesman because I always liked working with my hands, fixing things. So I went down to Philadelphia Navy Yard in 1966 when I graduated high school to be a machinist. And I was in a program called Shop Learner to Journeyman because the apprenticeship wasn't open at that time. And if you work for the federal government and were an apprenticeship, you actually got a draft deferment. You didn't have to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't have to go into service. If you're in college, you didn't have to go into service. So after 2 years of training to be a machinist, the apprenticeship opened up and they asked all of us who were in the shop learning the journeyman program if they wanted to be in the apprenticeship. Some people did it, and I said no, even though I knew that would mean I would get drafted, because my father was an infantry soldier, and if my country wanted me, I was going to go in the Army.
And you had that maturity. I'm saying maturity. You actually had that thought out.
Yes.
In your mind, this was what you were going to do.
Yes.
If they drafted you.
Yes,
So I'm assuming they did.
they did.
And how old were you when you got drafted?
20 years old.
Okay. And where did you take basic?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina, is where we took basic training. It was pretty good. All they were talking about was, you don't have your mama here, and Jody's got your Cadillac.
Oh, Jody.
Jody's got your Cadillac.
How many different stories can we tell about Jody, especially after we got to Vietnam?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that was one of the things, especially when we were there longer and you had newer guys.
What does Jody's got your Cadillac mean? I've never heard that.
Well, Jody is this infamous character that every infantryman refers to when he gets a Dear John letter from his girlfriend or his wife at home. And it turns out, and I swear, 1 out of 2 times, it turns out to be the guy's best friend. I mean,
Yes.
and so Jody is just a name, and I think Jody's been around forever.
Yes, and Jody's driving on your Cadillac while you're in the military.
Where you're out there
I
trying to
see.
get killed, yeah.
Yes.
Funny.
Yes.
And he's got your girlfriend sitting right next to him in the Cadillac,
Yes.
so, yeah, that was Jody. But I'm serious, some of the toughest times I had with guys in my squad, if they got a Dear John, they called them Dear John letters.
Yes.
And, man, they went nuts. Some of these guys lost it.
They
And
lost
then-
it to where it was a danger to everybody.
where we had to get them back. We had to get them under control.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be a bad situation for
Yes.
everybody. And what do you remember about basic specifically?
I was always into sports and stuff like that, so going through the training was, to me, was good. As
The
far-
PT?
Yeah, the PT and exercise and camaraderie, that was good. You made a lot of friends. We were in the service, but what I found out later was, like, unlike the Second World War, where you went to basic together, infantry training, and then the war, and then somebody would get killed. They thought that if they sent you to basic with one group of guys, infantry training to another group of guys, and go to war with another guys, that you won't feel as much when something happens to them. And that's totally untrue. You start immediately bonding.
Of
when you're-
course,
when you're
yeah.
with your unit. And when you're over there, you don't never want to leave your guys when you're there. So,
Do you remember who your platoon sergeant was in basic?
a platoon sergeant, yes. Platoon sergeant was a sergeant, now I can't think of his name. Radcliffe, no.
You can see him though, can't you?
Oh, I could see him. I could see him screaming in my ear, too.
Sure. And so, did everybody in your basic training unit kind of think they were going to go infantry?
Yeah. A lot of guys, well, they didn't really know either. You didn't really know what you were going to do, but
The rumor was is a lot of us are going to be going to Vietnam, of
a lot of
course.
going to Vietnam, although only maybe about 15% of the troops of Vietnam are infantry troops, so.
True, that's true. So, okay, so at basic graduation, they call your name and they say you're going to be an 11 Bravo. You weren't surprised,
Wasn't surprised, and I wasn't
And-
disappointed either.
and they said you're going to take AIT where?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Okay,
That was the best thing could happen for me, because my friends would come and see me all the time, because it wasn't that far away.
sure.
Yes.
And in AIT, we had a little flexibility. We had a little freedom.
Yes.
Basic, not so much, but in AIT, you could get a weekend pass. You could,
Yes.
after 5 o'clock, you could go to the BX and go have a beer and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, as I recall, when we graduated from basic, they actually were treating us like human beings. And they
Yes.
had given us some confidence in ourselves at that point, so.
They break you down and build you up again.
Exactly. So what did you learn in AIT?
Actually, it's prepare me for Vietnam and different things to look for. People, the drill sergeants and the other people training us, they were there. They were experienced us. They gave us their experience.
They were Vietnam vets.
Vietnam
Yep.
vets. And one thing I did learn, I never knew why that through all this training, they're always screaming in your ear all the time, constantly. But then I read something recently that said the reason why they did that is so that when you're in combat, no matter what's going on around you, you stay focused because of all that screaming. And it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd never thought about that.
Yeah,
But-
I didn't either until I read that.
Yeah,
So,
you're
it's really
absolutely
true.
right. When did you get to Vietnam?
I got to Vietnam July 7th, 1969.
Okay, and you flew into Benoit, and then you went to Long Ben, right?
Yes.
And do you remember your experience there at the reception station, or how long you were there? Or?
Well, I remember when I came in, I'm seeing old people that's going home, and they're all nice. They're tan looking. You can see a little difference in them. And then you see the soldiers come in. They're all light skinned.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't been in the sun yet, and haven't had 5 shades of dirt on them,
Yeah.
from being out in the field. So it was an experience going through that.
I've had a lot of guys say, too, that when they looked at these guys going by them, the look on their face wasn't,
Yes,
they knew something had happened.
right.
Do you remember that,
Yes,
too?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And so you're at the reception station, and I don't know if you did this, but we used to have to go sit in the bleachers a couple of times a day and wait for our name to be called, and then they told you what unit you were going to be in.
I think so. I
So
think they did that.
when that day came and your name was called, and they said, okay, you're in Charlie Company, 25th Wolfhounds, and you're going to go get on a truck over there, and they're going to take you to your company area.
Well, I was just glad I was being assigned where I was going to be at, and
Mhm.
just know I was going to be assigned and had some finality to where I was going at.
Yeah, that's good. Had you heard anything about the Wolfhounds up to this point?
No.
Okay. So you wind up taking that trip, and Dusty, and through villages and kids begging for candy, and,
I'll never forget the smell of that country when I landed there.
oh, how do you describe it?
It's hard. It's like so humid there, just an awful smell. I
Yeah.
can't. It's hard to explain.
And nobody ever forgets it. That's the
Don't
interesting.
forget that smell.
Yeah. When you got to the company area, do you remember when you got off the truck, did somebody from Charlie Company come and get you, or what happened?
Yeah, they brought us into the company where we're going at. I remember first time I drank that water, I was maybe so sick. That water there gave me a lot of stomach problems.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There was no bottled water in those days, was there?
No, it's just like a big tanker, and who knows how clean it was, but that was
Oh.
our water.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'm sure, well, you would learn later on that at certain points in your life, you would even drink rice patty water.
With iodine tablets in
Yeah,
it.
so, I mean, our willingness or quality control lessened the longer you were in Vietnam,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you were dying of thirst.
Yes, we need to drink something. You need to drink.
So do you remember when they issued you your rifle and you got your gear, and do you remember anything about that, going to the supply room? And
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, my weapons, everything worked right. Gave me so much ammo. And, every once in a while, we go out there and try our weapons out.
yeah.
Make sure it was working right.
The
Sights.
Mad Minute, where you'd go out and they'd just get online and
Yeah.
somebody would say go.
Go
and,
ahead.
And that was actually kind of fun.
Yeah, it was.
So
It
when
was.
you got to Charlie Company, they told you what platoon you were going to be in.
Yes.
And then where was your unit at? Where were they operating out of?
Well, out of Cu Chi was the base camp, but
Yep.
then we took us out to a fire support base, which I don't think it was that far from Cambodia, and
Was it one of the diamonds?
no, the diamonds were
Kotrick?
gone. Kotrick, Harris.
Yes.
those bases. Once in a while, we were in Jackson, the battalion-sized base camp. But we were all over the place. Sometimes, there was one time I think we stayed out in the field for 30 days without being in any base, just being out in the field. So that wasn't too good.
Yeah. Do you remember walking into the platoon? What was their reaction and what was your reaction?
Well, when I first met the guys in the platoon, it's a mixture of guys that got there and some veterans. And all I heard was about the diamonds. That's all I heard about for a month or two, about the diamonds. Because these guys, like yourself, came in 1968 to 69, and they've been through the diamonds. And they gave me some lessons and instructed me about different things to look out for. And, I just think it was good that they took their time to go through everything, what they've been through, and to try to make me into a better infantry soldier.
And they had a selfish motive for that. The quicker we could teach you to get up to speed, the less likely you'd get us killed.
Yes.
I know
That's
that
true.
sounds fine, but there was a little bit of selfishness on our part
Well, that's true.
when the new guys would come in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and do you remember, did you do a day rift first, or did you do an ambush patrol first after you'd gotten to the platoon?
I think it was a day rift, just going through a sweep, sweep in different areas and looking for booby traps, looking for anything around the perimeter of the fire support base.
And when's the first time you took a helicopter ride?
Oh, I think in the first couple of weeks I was there.
And tell me what that felt like.
Well, I used to sit with my legs hanging out the side, and centrifugal force would hold you in. That was a nice ride, but when you get to the end of the ride, you don't know what you
I was
expect.
I know what I was gonna back you up and say, did you have that feeling of exhilaration when you were flying? I mean,
Yes,
it was
yes.
actually kind of a fun, for me, I really enjoyed flying.
I enjoyed flying too, yes.
But when you looked out, you were in the door, so you could see forward, and usually you would be looking at another helicopter either smoking the hedgerow
Yes.
or Cobras shooting into, and the pilot would either say it's hot or it's,
Hot LZ,
and
old
when you,
LZ.
and when you were a new guy, tell me what you felt like the very first time that the door gunner said, "Bail out. We're not touching the ground."
Well, I remember hitting the ground pretty hard. If you hitting some hard spots on the berms or somewhere, jolting your back,
Yep.
feet up to from your feet to your lumbar to your cervical, you could feel a shock wave hitting
Yeah.
that hard ground, 6 feet off the ground,
Yep.
jumping out of helicopters. But then, not knowing what we're getting into was the most important part of you're looking everywhere, and and you're just wondering what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Another kind of a weird feeling is as they're coming in, the door gunners used to open up, and
Yes.
you'd hear a constant M60. This guy's just hosing down the hedgerows and
Right.
stuff, and that that gets a guy jacked up.
Yes.
I mean, the adrenaline really,
yeah.
really starts going at that
Yeah.
point. And so you would get out and then tell us what would happen when everybody got out of the helicopters.
Well, I mean, everybody was gung-ho. Everybody was running out, whatever intel we had when we got there, we would do what we had to do.
And when's the first time that you were out in the field that somebody stepped on a booby trap? Do you remember that?
Probably a couple months, and it wasn't, it was in the platoon, but another squad. I can't remember the gentleman's name, and he was dusted off.
And were you far enough away that you heard the bang, and then somebody yelled medic, but you didn't actually know what was going on because you couldn't see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that kind of gave you a weird feeling, I'll bet.
yes.
And then the first time.
Then you start being even more careful,
Yeah.
looking for booby traps.
Yep. Yep. And who would you say were your buddies in the platoon?
Well, I mean, number one was just actually three of us were really close. Was Sergeant Jerry Rattlade, and John DePra, okay, which he lived in California.
Mm-hmm.
He's deceased now, but I got to see him about 15 years ago.
Oh, that's great.
So that was nice. Me and my wife went to go see him and his wife. And then I got together with Jerry Rattlade like about 10 years ago. He looked me up, found me. But we would always look out for each other. You know, we knew we had each other's back. I mean, also in the platoon, George Weldon, he was from South Philly like myself, okay? And all the other guys in the platoon, I can't think of all, Dale Berg,
Mm-hmm.
Terry
Lieutenant
Lane.
Wiesner, of
Lieutenant
course.
Lieutenant Wiesner was my platoon leader,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a very nice gentleman, okay, a gentleman. And he was platoon leader for so long, and then he became XO with the company, and then Lieutenant Clark replaced him.
Lieutenant who?
Lieutenant Rodney Clark.
Oh, Clark, yes, okay. And so, do you remember the very first time you actually shot your M16 on purpose?
Yes.
Was that off of an eagle flight, or were you just rifting, or did you
was
get
all-
ambushed, or what was the occasion?
That was off on an Eagle flight, coming into a hot LZ.
What was the pucker factor at that point?
You mean my heartbeat?
You're tightening up.
Oh, yeah, it was,
A number 10, probably.
yeah, I mean, you get all revved up. I mean, you don't know what you're getting into. I mean, it's hard to see sometimes, especially when the enemy's in bunkers and dug in.
Oh, sure. But you're shooting
Shooting anyway.
on purpose.
Yeah,
So that's everybody that's ever been an infantryman always remembers that first firefight, because the adrenaline hit is just unbelievable, And some guys, were you scared?
I'll tell you the truth, I never got scared.
Okay, that's what I was going to get at. Some guys just say, I just kind
I
of,
just did what I had to do. I
Did
just
it.
went along with the program.
yeah, okay. When is the first time that you saw one of your guys get killed?
April 2nd, 1970, Renegade Woods.
That was the first. Before that time, had you seen guys hurt?
Team guys hurt, but never get killed.
Okay, so you'd been through the hurt, the medevac, that routine, and especially if a guy was hurt bad enough, he never came back.
Right.
And I remember that upset everybody, especially if it was one of your friends.
Yes.
So the Renegade Woods, and you actually saw one of your guys go down. What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, they brought us in on a Eagle flight to rescue these Rangers, platoon-sized Ranger reconnaissance, and I still don't know why that intelligence didn't know there was an NVA-sized base camp not far from where they left us off at, and the Rangers encountered contacts, and they had snipers and machine gunners all around this perimeter of this base camp, and they let us off right outside the base camp, and when they let us off, Lieutenant Clark, the platoon leader, said, everybody hold up. And as soon as they told to move out to find these Rangers, the point man on the right, Mickey Griffiths, was killed,
Right off the get-go.
dead. And then on the left side, I found this out after, because we were on two columns, a right column and left column.
Yes.
There was, 4 people killed and many wounded on the left side. And after the point man got killed on the right side, Lieutenant Clark got shot in the stomach. I saw him punched over. I ran, got him out of harm's way while I was firing at the enemy. And I'm seeing where the fire's coming from. I kept firing and firing while I'm getting the lieutenant to safety, and I got shot in the head. And George Weldon describes this to me, because I remember this, but he describes it because he was on rear security that day. I pulled out a baseball grenade and threw it as hard as I can where the fire was coming from, and took out the enemy. And that enabled the lieutenant, myself, anybody behind me, because after that, I was knocked to the ground. Like my vertigo was so bad. And then the next thing I remember, I'm on a helicopter. That's all I remember, is that, being on a helicopter, because evidently that, like, taking out that threat enabled the helicopters to come in, medevac. And I remember going to a hospital, was there for a few days, and then coming back to base camp. I don't remember how I got there. And ever since then, I've been having memory loss problems and TBI. They said I have TBI.
Yeah.
And then it also caused me to have post-traumatic stress disorder from that.
When they sent you back, did you return to the unit?
No, I went back to the unit, but because I had so many problems with memory and
Yeah,
focus and
yeah.
all, I stayed in the base camp, but I didn't go back in the field.
I gotcha, yeah. So, did you have an opportunity to take an R&R?
Yes, I did go to Australia for a week.
Oh, you got the jackpot.
I think in December I went.
Okay.
And it was the opposite seasons, so it was warm there. They had Bundy Beach. It was nice there, a nice place. I didn't really want to see any Asian people at the time, so instead of going to one of these Asian countries,
Yes.
I went to Australia.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason I said you hit the jackpot is the Australian R&R was really hard to get. There wasn't very many of them to allocate.
Right.
That's what I was getting at. So you hit the jackpot on that. So were you sort of like a tourist then? Did you go around the countryside? What do you remember doing in Australia?
Yeah, I remember just going to some clubs and stuff like that.
Okay.
Just relaxing, just get away from everything, not think about too much, and just, it was an experience going there.
During your tour, did you write home a lot?
I wrote my girlfriend, at
And
the
who was
time.
she?
Her name was Janet.
Okay.
Yes.
And she was your girlfriend before you went, obviously.
Yes.
Okay, how about your folks?
Did I write once in a while?
Yeah, not so much though? Do you think your mom was worried?
Yeah, she was worried, especially when I signed paperwork not to contact my parents if I'm just wounded, only if I'm deceased.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, they send this picture to the house with me with sunglasses on. She didn't know if I was blinded or what, with them putting the decoration on me. And also putting it in the daily newspaper.
Sure.
That so-and-so's been wounded.
Oh, sure, yep.
So I didn't like that they did that.
Because it really, I am sure, if your mom was like my mom, that was really hard, because they worried every day anyway.
Yes.
So, what was it like? Who did Janet send you care packages, or did your friends, anybody send care packages to you?
Yeah, Janet sent me some stuff, but my mother would send me pepperoni. That
Oh,
margarita pepperoni. And she would
yes.
send me a big box of it. Of course, I have to distribute it to the platoon.
Well, they were on their hands and knees
Yeah.
at your bunker. Are you
Yes,
kidding?
Yes.
Wasn't it awful to see us beg? I mean, when guys grown tough guys begging you for
Even Lifer, the dog, was trying to get my pepperoni. You remember Lifer, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's good. And how many months did you serve with the Wolfhounds?
Well, I guess it was like 9 to 10 months.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
What month did you get in?
July, and I left July of 1970.
So you were a 12-monther. I mean, you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Oh, I didn't go home,
That's
no.
what I meant. Yeah.
No, I didn't
So
go home.
you did your whole 12 months.
Yes.
And do you remember what citations or awards or anything that you got during your
Well,
tour
I
in
have
Vietnam?
2 Purple Hearts.
Okay.
And I have a Bronze Star,
Okay.
and I have a Vietnamese decoration, good conduct, stuff like that. Just
Sure.
normal stuff. Combat infantry badge is very
Oh,
important.
that's
number one.
That's the important one.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know this because it's just come up recently, but because of the action that you took that day in the Renegade Woods, you've been put in for the Medal of Honor.
Yes.
And that's in the process of working right now, is that correct?
Yes. The only problem is that senior officers that we served under, the 25th Infantry Division or Department of the Army, they're all deceased. So Right now, it's at the Department of the Army headquarters, and Lieutenant Wiesner signed off on it, and George Weldon is the only witness, okay? Because Lieutenant Clark put him on rear security where he wasn't as much in harm's way.
Right.
And he witnessed everything. So after all these years and talking about it and talking about it at our reunions and then a magazine coming out about 8 years ago called Chewing Up Charlie in the Renegade Woods, it brought back all these memories again.
And you had a blackout. You had a period there where you didn't remember what happened.
No, I didn't.
So it's pretty difficult to ask a guy to remember specifics when, when you're shot in the head like that. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah, I still have headaches and vertigo problems till today and memory problems. And
Did you come home and did you ever have nightmares or
Yes.
flashbacks?
yes, I did. My mother used to say it's a scream at nighttime when I was sleeping.
Yeah. And let's get back to your girlfriend. When you came home, did you get married then?
No, we split up.
Okay. Do you think it had anything to do with your service in Vietnam?
Well, you got to put it this way. We're apart for so long. She's a young girl, right? And sometimes that people stray away, because of the fact I wasn't around for 2 years, That's part of it, Did anything to do with Vietnam? I don't know. I mean,
You came back different.
I was a changed person, more serious, and different things really bothered me, startled all the time, and just have all these different rituals that I go through, so.
Checking the perimeter?
Check the perimeter all the time, checking the doors at night, looking out the windows.
Absolutely.
Security all the time, and, until now, still the same way. Have the same way, checking everything.
So eventually, did you meet a lady that you?
Well, I did, and I got married, and then I had 3 kids, and then I got divorced, okay? And now I have a beautiful wife named Carol Ann, okay?
What are the kids' name?
My oldest son's named Jerry, and my daughter's name is Chrissy. She lives in North Carolina, and my youngest son's name is Dave.
And any grandkids?
Oh, yes, I have, my daughter Chrissy has 2 sons, Eden and Parker, and my stepson, Jason, has 3 daughters, Savannah, Scarlett, and Summer.
And so are you in touch with them?
All the time.
Oh,
yeah.
good. That's
all
great.
live
So
up the same block.
So, oh my gosh. So you're the papa.
Oh, yes, I am.
That's
I'm
one.
Poppy,
Oh, Poppy. Okay, that's wonderful. That's awesome.
because they got a pop, grandpop, but I'm Poppy.
I'll be darned. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Italian too.
Yep,
Poppy is more of an Italian version, I think.
yes, it is.
So, how was that growing up with, you're married now, you've got responsibilities. What were you doing for a living?
Well, I worked at the Navy. I went back to the Navy Yard. That's what I wanted to tell you. I went back to the Navy Yard, and I tried to be a machinist again. And I didn't realize I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. As soon as I went back there and heard the loud noises of the cutting materials, the machines, I couldn't take it. And one of my instructors was a superintendent of the tool shop. So he said, why don't you come in the tool shop? I'll get you in there, you'll take a cut and pay, but because of your experience as a machinist, you'll move up, from a tool parts attendant to a tool mechanic, which is repairing tools and
Oh,
equipment.
yeah.
So I got into that. I became a tool mechanic. I became a foreman, and then at the time I became the general foreman. So I moved up in the operation. I love what I did. I had the only assembly line in the government. We had all the tools and equipment and safety equipment, because when the Office of Safety and Health was getting really big, they were pushing respirators for people to wear on the
Oh,
ships.
sure, yeah.
So we had to maintain an inventory. It was getting so much of a problem, and the equipment would take days for it to dry when you would wash it and clean it from people wearing it. So me and 2 of my guys invented a drying machine, and we put all the equipment through there. and we could dry anything in an hour, breathing tubes, anything. And I had all my guys thinking the same way. I love my job. The shipyard closed, though. But I love my job
How many
because-
years did you do that?
Well, I stayed, I was in the Navy Yard for about 30 years. But, you know, in 94, 95, they closed, 1995. And that was really, I really loved that job because it gave you an opportunity to make a lot of improvements in the operation.
So, did you retire?
I retired from there.
Okay. And then did you do anything after retirement?
I got a job working for a in a place that made valves, okay, and Teflon products, and Gorlock valves and plastics in Camden. And I went in there as a supervisor and created a new tool room and new ways to do things because the place was there for a lot of years.
Yeah.
So I just came in with my own ideas. And we made a lot of good changes and things, but the place wound up moving, closing down and going to where the corporate office was. And I was the last management person to get hired, so I was there for 3 years and they
Gotcha.
closed. So I said, well, what am I going to do next? I went to work in security, which is the worst thing I could ever did, at the University of Arts in Philadelphia, where I wore a badge, just like a Philadelphia police officer, same uniform, handcuffs, baton, and my job was to secure the area. So when these college kids are supposed to show their ID, wouldn't show me their ID or give me a hard time, it would upset me because I'm guarding a perimeter.
Right.
It's the worst kind of job I could have had. So I worked there for a couple years. And then one day I had a confrontation with a student, and the school didn't back me up. I told him goodbye. You give me a policy to follow. You don't, because the kids pay $30,000 a year to go to school there.
Yeah.
So I said, goodbye, find somebody else that doesn't follow your policies. So, you know, when you tell me to secure an area, I'm going to secure the area.
Mm-hmm.
So I left there and I haven't worked since.
So you're retired?
Yes.
And I mean, this is none of my business, but that 30-some year job, did that offer a pretty good retirement? I mean,
Yeah.
financially for you
Yeah,
guys?
I get a pension, yeah.
Yeah, so, good. So, I mean, you were not struggling as far as that goes. So
Right.
So that's good. Okay. And what did you think of the first reunion that you attended?
I thought it was great. I mean, it was a very healing process to see, you know, guys you served with there, guys you crossed paths with there, and just the way you ran everything. It was so nice to feel good about yourself.
What? Yeah, okay. And what, do you do anything for recreation nowadays?
I sing in an a cappella group. I sing in 2 a cappella groups, the Emeralds and Frankie and the Fashions. And that's my hobby, singing. I've been singing from street corner when I was 14 years old.
What kind of music is it?
Doo-wop music.
Okay. And you guys actually play for gigs, right? You guys have gigs that you...
Oh, yeah, I actually was in a show in 1997 with Tony Orlando, and called Jukebox Dreams, about guys in their 50s still singing doo-wop. And Tony said, he lives in Branson, Missouri, he said, anytime you come to Branson, come and see me. You know, I want to see you. So every time I called him, we're in Branson, he was in Atlantic City. He was performing in Atlantic City, so. But Tony Orlando is a very nice guy.
You know, I always got that impression. When, you know, just as an entertainer and a person, I always thought he was very...
He is
Generous,
like
very-
you see him, that's the way he is.
Yeah.
Well, and any guy who would tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree, I mean, he's very
Yep. Yeah.
Jerry, what is your definition of a hero?
Definition of a hero. I think everybody was a hero that went to Vietnam and was in combat. I mean, you know.
Did you have anybody in your unit that you thought of specifically as a hero?
I don't know. I thought of us all as the same. You know, no matter what your rank was, you just went out and tried to do your job. and try to take care of each other, because that's the only way you're going to make it home.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, I heard somebody say, you know, the reason that the Vietnam vets were as close is because the guy on your left had your back and the guy on your right had your back, and you had theirs. You know, and that was a commitment almost. That was a brotherhood.
And that's why Vietnam veterans say welcome home to each other, because
Yeah.
nobody gave us a welcome home.
Yep. Yep, you're absolutely right. And what does the American flag mean to you?
Well, the American flag means who I am. I mean, who I am, serving my country. It's what democracy is all about. And the Constitution Center's in Philadelphia, where I live at.
Oh, yes. Boy, you've got a lot of history here.
Yes, yes, you do. And, you know, to serve your country is an honor.
Yeah, it is. Now, you've got grandkids,
Yes.
and I've explained to you that the purpose of this interview is to be a part of a whole. In other words, we're trying to put together our unit history. But who this really is for are for our families, our children, our grandchildren, their grandchildren, and that, you know, so forth and so on. So when they look at this, they're actually going to get to see you in living color and talking and so forth. I'd like you to look into the camera and give those people, grandkids, great-grandkids, and generations to come, give them your best advice. What would you give them as your best advice?
No, there's nothing you can't do in this world if you work hard enough for it. If you want something hard enough, you got to work for it. Nobody gives you things. Okay, you have to take the bull by the horns. And if you want to go to college, you want to do a trade, whatever that you want to do, you just work as hard as you can, and it will pay off, and you'll have a great life.
Great advice. Is there anything today that in our discussions that I haven't covered that you want on your oral history?
I just think that people today in this country got to come together. Whether you're I don't know what they call them, millennials or whatever, we're all the same country. We all have to work for each other and make us the best country it could be.
True.
Let me ask you a question. I was going to ask you, Jerry. You said, you know, you grew up playing street ball and like the sandlot, you know.
Yeah, I played hardball in games, sandlot games, and also football, rough tackle football. But I never went out for my teams because I was too busy singing and doing other things. And
were you kind of a jokester? Were you kind of the funny kid, or what kind of a kid were you?
I think I was a jokester when I was younger, but after I came back from Vietnam, I was a totally different person.
And is there any going back to that funny guy, or is that guy?
I try, you know, the guys I sing with tell me I'm funny. So I think that when I sing and I'm around the guys, I go back to my childhood when I was a teenager, and I start being funny and acting like that. And then when I'm not singing, then I become an adult again, and I'm a whole different world.
And amazingly, when you're around the vets, you go back to that time.
Yes.
And all the conversations that you had are almost like they come back, not the same ones, but I mean, you're funny like you were there, sarcastic like you were there, or, you know, isn't that amazing how, but it's only with the guys that you were with.
Yes, yes.
And it's an amazing phenomenon. I know when we had the very first reunion, and guys were walking into the front of the hotel, and we had a little desk set up to sign people in. When they looked different, of course, they were old, but when they spoke, the voice was just like it was in the day.
Yes.
And they would look at you, or you would look at them, and you would pick up a conversation, or you would give them a sarcastic remark, just like it was in Nam.
Yes.
Just like it was yesterday.
When I went to go visit my friend John DePra, he was a businessman, real successful parts business. I met his wife and kids, and my wife went there. And we started talking to each other, and we started acting like we did when we were kids. His family has never saw him that way. Never. They couldn't believe he was going out places with us, and they couldn't believe the difference in him because all we knew was our youth. We didn't know
Exactly.
now, and that's how we acted.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Did you ever sing in Vietnam, like when you?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
I sing out in the I sing out in the middle of the rice paddies. Jerry Riley would tell you I start singing anywhere in the rice paddies. I start singing.
What kind of songs would you sing?
I would do a little Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin, and then I'll sing some doo-wop, whatever. But I would do it in a place I wasn't going to get shot at. I mean,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Now, you said Frank Sinatra. What songs would you sing from him?
Oh, I don't even remember some of the songs he
Like,
did.
was My Way a song that he did back
That
then?
wasn't even out then. No.
Summer Wind, or I don't know much Frank Sinatra.
You probably like Michael Bublé.
Yeah, he's a good singer. He's a good singer.
Well, he does Sinatra,
Yeah.
and he does more. I mean, I just watched a special that he put on, and man, he's good.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
But did the guys like it, or would they get mad at you, or would you know?
No, they laugh.
Yeah.
Sure.
They laugh. Yeah. And I said, someday I'm going to be on stage. And I was on stage.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, you told us earlier that just like in the Rocky movie, you guys would stand around a trash can and you'd be creating these things and singing them. Did any of those guys later in your life ever sing with you?
Yes. Yes. And we're back together singing now with
So
the
that was
Emeralds.
that was the guys.
Yes. Yes. And I know those guys in the movie, that group. And, you know, there's nothing like, that's a camaraderie also of having guys standing around singing,
That's
you
amazing.
know? Back in the day, on every street corner in South Philly, you had somebody singing. You know?
That's amazing.
That was a great time.
Was it like, here's the can if you want to throw a few coins in? It's like, and today when you go to places, somebody's playing the guitar and they got the case open and they seed it with a few bucks, you know.
Yes.
Was it sort of like that, or was it
No,
just for
we
your
never-
own entertainment?
No, it was just for our own entertainment, and you know, we didn't have music, we didn't have anything. We'd just start singing, and we'd emulate the famous singers and the songs of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a good feeling to sing. Yeah.
What was one of the songs back then that you remember you guys used to sing?
Well, I would say like "By Love Possessed" was a slow song. Actually, that was the theme from the Late Show. Remember the Late Show?
Yes.
Well, they never had words for that song, and they made the words for that song.
What was it called?
It was called "By Love Possessed."
By Love Possessed.
"By Love Possessed."
Give us a little.
From the moment that we caressed, my love possessed was I. That song.
Wow.
But it was a great song. One of our local guys, the 4Js, Junior Perillo, recorded that song with the words, and you know.
Did the radio stations ever get interested in that culture to where they would actually do a remote and come out and have you guys singing?
Not at that time. There were so many different groups. But I'm going to tell you a funny story though. When the Emeralds we were practicing one day in the tunnel. Now, you saw that movie with My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well,
That's one of my favorite
my
movies,
friend Joe,
actually.
my friend Joe had a big white Cadillac with the big fins like a shark. Okay,
Oh, yes.
so we're singing in this tunnel, and all of a sudden the police come, and they lock us up because, as the movie My Cousin Vinny, 4 guys just raped a girl,
Oh,
and they thought it was us. They
my.
took us down to the police station, and we were singing for hours. Even the police were giving us requests to sing.
Oh, my God.
So they said, these guys got to be too happy to have done anything wrong. So finally they found the guys and they let us go. But things like that happen, mistaken identity.
What song have you sang more than any other song? You guys have a favorite that you sing more than, like your
Like a
best
trademark song?
Well, in the group Frankie and the Fashions I sing, and there's a song called What Do I Have to Do? Frank LaFaro, he's a Vietnam veteran, he's an Army medic. he wrote this song, and he wrote it in a style, a doo-wop style. Okay, it's a beautiful song, but not too many people know when he wrote the song. He goes out as Frank Sinatra and sings Frank Sinatra. And it was when Frank and his wife were breaking up. And that's what the song is about.
Oh, my gosh.
But look it up on the internet. What do I have to do?
That's
It's a beautiful
amazing.
song. Yep.
So, and you're still singing today?
I'm singing in 2 groups now. So, you know, different styles, but still do well.
Well, I'll tell you, this has just been a great interview. I've had a lot of fun with this interview. And you know, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of them aren't. You know, I mean, depending on the guy and what he went through and so forth and so on. But the thing that I love about you the most is somehow or another in life, you have been able to recapture a certain balance in life, that you decided not to go full depression and go out of your mind, but you regained some of what was your sanity and what was fun and what was the best part of your life.
Yes.
And that's who you are today.
Yes.
And I just think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Wonderful thing. Jerry, thank you. I love you,
Okay.
brother.
Nice to see you again.
And wow, I can't wait for your family to see this. This will be generational, man.